Okay, and then yeah, also if you want to touch on the private studio and everything, kind of share a little bit about that, how you got, how you got to that point to even be able to do that, just talk a little bit about that.
Right, yeah. So it was actually very unexpected to get into a private studio for sure, like how that
Okay.
went about. So the last shop I had worked at, I had a very, very bad experience there, and I ended up having to quit very randomly because just feeling unsafe there. And so
Gotcha.
I quit randomly, and I always knew a private studio was something that I wanted to do. I knew that would be like my long-term goal kind of thing. Um,
Eventually.
just because I knew how I personally work, and just I know myself very well. I knew that that's what would fit me best.
Yeah, being
Um,
introverted, that was
yeah,
like the dream of like being able to work in your own space, definitely.
right. Yeah. So yeah, my introverted dream right there.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I always knew as long would be my goal of mine. And so because I quit randomly, I was really like trying to figure out what to do because I was like, I still had, some clients lined up. I was like, I knew I needed to keep tattooing. I need to pay my bills. Um,
Right.
I was very, very intimidated to go to try to look for another shop just based off of the previous experiences I had. Um, that I was just really scared. I was like, I don't want these same things to
Gotcha.
happen to me again. So I was like, okay, I think a private studio is we're gonna make it happen now, basically. Um,
Gotcha. So
and I
almost out of necessity, you kind of got like pushed towards that direction.
Right, yes, which I feel like, everything happens for a reason, for sure.
Right.
So and I also really lucked out because I had a friend of mine who I met while I was apprenticing at the first shop I started at. She reached out to me randomly, like we hadn't talked in a while. She reached
Okay.
out randomly to me and was like, "Hey, like, where are you tattooing at right now? Like, are you down to get a studio together?" Basically. So she was
Okay.
also on that kind of path too. So that just worked out really well. The universe blessed me right there with that.
So
So
y'all went in together and got something like together?
yeah, so then me and her, like, we got together and then started touring studios around because we also happen to live in the same area too. Um,
Gotcha.
so we started going around and touring and finally found a little studio that would fit both of us. And yeah, I'm really glad I ended up having another person to do it with me. Um, Especially starting out, because I wouldn't say I was, in that position yet, to like financially afford my
Do
own
it by
private
yourself,
studio.
yeah,
Right. So being able to, split that rent and have someone there with me, like, helped tremendously for sure. Um,
definitely. And also any tips on that too, as far as like the researching process or like actually going through and finding somebody, a good place, reputable.
Yeah, for sure. So we honestly did as many tours of these studios as we could. Like I went on the internet and like looked up all of them, made a whole list, wrote, and anytime we would go to each studio, we would write notes, on each one to make sure
Gotcha.
that it was, a good area. We felt like safe there. How they went about, their rent, if they were doing any offers. Like a lot of places will do offers, that will help out, like, 2 weeks rent free kind of thing.
Gotcha.
So definitely just even ask for those too, like ask like, hey, are you doing any like offer kind of things?
Negotiate,
So
definitely.
yeah, making sure that the space is big enough for you, like just actually doing the physical tours will help with
Gotcha.
that. That way you're like, in there making sure that you like the space and liking the management too as well. Like we had a pretty like for the final studio we ended up getting, we had a very long conversation with the girl who was like the management of the building, and we thought
Gotcha.
she was very sweet and nice and stuff. So we knew it would be like a good environment to be in as well.
Gotcha. Okay, and did you have like anything specific that you were like, that kind of narrowed it down for y'all, like as far
Yeah.
as
Yeah, so we ended up going with that one because it was the biggest size for the cheapest price, which we thought was
Heard,
crazy.
heard. Say
Is
no more.
right, it worked out so well because we knew we wanted a
Gotcha,
bigger space because it was both of us, sharing the room. Like we both have our own little beds in there, so we needed a
gotcha,
good amount of space. And then yeah, it lucked out that it happened to be the cheapest price too. Because it
gotcha.
it is, way like it's on the edge of Katy pretty much. So I find, the ones that are on the outskirts of Houston, not necessarily central, can be a little bit cheaper out there just because of the area.
Gotcha.
I feel like definitely when you're more centered in Houston, they can get a little bit pricey. Um,
Definitely.
but again, just depending on like where you're looking at too.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah, you want to shout her out also?
Oh yeah, that's my girl. That's my girl Abby.
About Abby.
Yeah, Abby, and her Instagram is always X Forever Tattoo. I'm gonna confirm
Gotcha.
that.